Perfect. Gonna go ahead and get started. First and foremost, welcome everyone. I'm here to talk to you all today about best practices to avoid bad business. The one thing that we all hate, no one wants to deal with, is bad business. So I'm going to chat with you all about best practices, but I want to actually start with a little story time, actually. So to give you some background about myself, I'm Dominique, one of our account specialists here at Goodshuffle. But prior to being at Goodshuffle, I actually spent over 10 years in events. I started off, like a lot of people, just doing events for school, whoever asked me to help. I would do it. I love the idea of planning. I love logistics. I love the creativity behind it. My favorite type of event was actually conferences, even though I was a wedding planner for most of my career. Always loved doing conferences, especially the ones that let you be really creative. The ones that had those unique layouts, love doing conferences. And contrary to popular belief, I personally feel that ghost chairs are the superior chair. I know recently we had a poll on our Instagram about Shivari chairs. I personally am not a Shivari chair fan. I know they're practical, but I love the way ghost chairs look in a room that's perfectly lit up for an after party or a gala or a wedding reception. I love a good ghost chair. But with all of that, as you can see me in the top right, very excited, love doing events, but I didn't start off doing conferences and I didn't start off being able to use ghost chairs and things like that. In fact, I actually started off on the left. So as we know, this session is about bad business. And at first glance, it may be obvious that I'm going to say that the picture of the Minecraft birthday party is the bad business. And if you're thinking that, you are correct. In the beginning, I was doing birthday parties, baby showers, events where whomever would call me and hire me to do events. I was a one-person show. I would call my parents, my partner, whomever could help me set these events up. However, the biggest thing that I want to point out is the only thing that makes the image on the left bad business is the fact that I actually did not get paid the agreed amount. I actually did the same amount of work for the event on the left that I did for the event on the right. And even though they were years apart, the biggest thing that separated it is that I did not have anything in place that would have helped me to get paid for what I did on the left. While on the right, I thought about a lot of things that I need to change and implement in order to get there. And so it actually all started with the question that I'm going to ask you all, but I don't want you to answer this question just yet. I'm going to ask you the question again at the end, but right now I just want you to think. If your dream client called today, if that phone rang right after this session or right at the end of the day, and your dream client was on the other line, is your business ready to execute? I want you to think about that. Again, don't want you to answer yet. I'm going to ask the question again at the end, but just want you to think in this moment right here. Is your business ready to execute for that dream client? Now, when I came to this question, I realized there were three things that I needed to know before I could even think about this question. First and foremost, I needed to know who that ideal client was. I also need to know what processes that I had in place, and I needed to know my business. And at the end, that is when I posed that question. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to cover knowing your ideal client, knowing your processes, knowing your business, and then I'm going to ask you that question again. So first, let's start with who is your ideal client? Now, before you can really wonder who your ideal client is, you have to wonder, are you attracting the wrong client? So the question becomes, am I attracting the wrong client? Am I currently bringing in business that's not really what I was looking for when I decided to embark upon this entrepreneurial journey? First things first, are you targeting the wrong audience? Are you casting a wide net and getting anything that's coming? Or does your net have enough filters in it to make sure that you're only pulling in the audience that you're looking for? Also ask yourself if you're compromising quality for quantity. When a lot of us first start out in this business, we tend to pick up the phone for whoever calls. We'll take any job just for the sake of having that portfolio. I know when I first started and I was interning, it was all about the portfolio. What have you done? What can you show? What can you show a client? What can you show a vendor? And wanting to build that portfolio often comes at the sake of quality. See, the important thing about quality is that more quality often results in more business. Higher quality clients often are the ones that are either repeat clients or they have those high referrals that bring you clients that are similar to them. And those are the ones that you really want to pull in. Once you have an idea if you're targeting the wrong client, then you can go ahead and pivot a little bit to see how can I then attract the ideal client. There's two things you want to think about when it comes to your ideal client. Ask yourself, do you appeal to them as you are currently? And by appealing, do you have what they're looking for? Do your current products and services really align with what they are needing? So, for example, if your ideal client is a young couple that is looking for a wedding on a ranch, if you don't have any of that furniture that appeals to that look, that might not be your ideal client. Also ask yourself if your website and your online experience is tailored to them. Would they be in awe of your social media feeds? Are they scrolling and liking everything that you're posting? Are they calling you as soon as they see something on Pinterest that came from you? Do they like what they see from you? Also, can they find you? Are you truly marketing to them? If they were to search vintage chairs or inflatables near me, can they find you? Do you come up in that search? Some perfect examples are one of our vendors is in North Texas. So as soon as you go on their website, you see North Texas Premier Event Rental. You know they're in North Texas and they have premier event rentals. Most importantly, what you'll see on their site is everything that they offer still tells a story. So they may do weddings, but they also do large scale events as well for tents and outdoors. They also may do a little bit of other rentals for more industrial type events. So they're casting that wide net I mentioned earlier, but they're filtering out for the client that they want. On the other hand, you may have a client that is very niche. And if you know that niche, you're going to create an experience that appeals to them both aesthetically and on their budget. And we'll talk about budget in a second. But you'll make sure that that online experience, again, whether they're on their desktop or on their phone, that they're seeing things that they like, that they enjoy, that they want to partake in. I'll definitely say when I was first starting, I did not do that. I actually was just basically telling anyone, hey, I do events. I didn't have anything tailored to anyone. As I continued, I recognized, okay, I really like these conferences that do galas and started to tailor the way that people would find me and what they would see looked like. And that's super important. Just as important as the budget aspect of things. This example here, you actually will see that it says what their minimum price is in certain areas. And that's actually super important because the other aspect of your ideal client is knowing their budget. Oftentimes, we get afraid of targeting certain clients or afraid of that we're going to outprice ourselves for certain clients. But I want to clear up the air around overpriced versus over budget. It was a big thing, especially when I was first doing weddings, was the idea that, am I overpriced or am I just out of someone's budget? The thing I want you all to take away today is never, ever sell yourself short. Never devalue the service that you offer because someone tells you that you are overpriced. If you are delivering value, your price will not come into question. And that is when you'll recognize that you are simply over budget and that just may not be the client for you. There are all types of ways to determine if you are overpriced versus over budget. The biggest way being understanding if your pricing is competitive. The best way to look at that is look at your area, talk to people in your industry, in your niche, and get an understanding of what their pricing looks like. Take a look at their socials, take a look at what they're doing, and get an understanding of, am I priced fairly or am I underpriced? Am I devaluing my service for the sake of the sale? And no one wants to do that because you'll end up like I did, doing a birthday party and ending up spending more than you make. So again, recognizing that sometimes being over budget may seem like you're overpriced, but just evaluate, is this the client for me? Or is it truly my pricing? So once you have an idea of everything that comes with your ideal client, next you're going to look at your processes. So I always like to say that the only thing between starting and being successful are the processes that are in place as you progress. With that in mind, you want to start with evaluating your current processes. So, what processes actually exist already? Ooh, sorry about that. Getting happy on the fingers here. Perfect. What processes already exist already? So, you want to take a look at what am I doing currently? What does my day-to-day look like? And is it efficient? So, do you start your Mondays reviewing projects for the upcoming week? Or are you looking at inquiries that came in over the weekend? Are you taking a look at who's looking to book newly or what contracts are already reaching out to you? Or are you checking in to see what items came back from the weekend? Is everything good to go? Are you seeing if your team actually checked everything in back into fulfillment? How are you moving throughout your day? And is it efficient? Is it effective for the way that you work, for the way that your teams work? Also, are you looking at what your limits are? Is your inventory up to date? Do you know what your availability looks like? And do you know if you need help? For example, is all of your inventory input into Goodshuffle Pro? Are you tracking everything or are you just adding things as they come along? I know Colin talked a lot about misuses, so definitely take a look at some of those things that you may not be doing that could help improve some of your processes. Are you sub-renting? Do you know when you need to sub-rent? Are you already in talks with someone that is available when you need to sub-rent those extra 50 chairs or 20 extra linens for an event? And then once you know your limits, do you also know where you can do more? We talk a lot about being able to go above and beyond for our clients, and knowing what you truly can do without overextending yourself is super important. But it's not just about what you can do. If there are other people involved, if you have a team with you, are they also equipped to go above and beyond? Are you leaving notes in fulfillment for them? Are you leaving notes for your venue contacts when you're dropping things off? Is everyone aware of what's happening and do they know what they can do to go above and beyond for your ideal client? One sec, my roller is just moving a little. I'm going to turn that off. Perfect. So small steps, close gaps. That is the lesson that I actually got from a mentor while I was doing events, is the idea that every small step you take will close a gap. So the important thing is to start with minor tweaks to a process. So if there's something that you are doing right now that's just simply not working, don't try to tackle it all at one time. They talk a lot about the Pomodoro method, where you're taking 15 minutes to do something, then taking 5-minute breaks. Consider using that as a way to make those small changes that you need. Maybe you need to input all of your inventory. Maybe you only input a couple pieces at a time. Those small steps are minor tweaks that you can see make big changes. Also, creating awareness across everyone involved. That doesn't just mean your team or anyone internally, that's externally as well. Making sure that your client is aware of what's happening, making sure that the venue that you're dropping off. There are so many ways in Goodshuffle Pro to communicate internally and externally to make sure that that awareness is there across everyone involved in any project that you're working on. And then real-time updates, real-time improvements. Going back to that idea of making sure your inventory is up to date, knowing when to sub-rent, being able to access Goodshuffle Pro right on your phone, jump on your computer, being able to make those changes in real time, no matter how big or small, are going to make huge milestones in terms of making sure that you are nailing that ideal client. So knowing what you can do. A great example is your inventory up to date? Do you have things in set aside? Do you have conflicts? Making sure that you're utilizing the tools that you have to keep track of those things and ensure they are up to date. Also, using those notes in fulfillment. A great example that I love seeing vendors use is when they're doing chalkboard signs and maybe their client's like, oh no, we'll write on it once it arrives. If you have that capacity to write that sign or go that extra step for them, make sure that your team knows that they can do that. Or if you can do it, just make sure that that communication is there with the tools that you have. Once you have those processes in place, then you can evaluate the current state of your business. And I love this picture because when you do a puzzle, there's nothing worse than realizing there is a piece missing. So when you're looking at the current state of your business, ask yourself, is there a piece missing? And how do you do that? Well, you start by looking at what's working well. Using that dashboard in Goodshuffle Pro, you can have a quick glance at maybe there's a client that's a top spender. Maybe you have an inventory item that is just selling and you can't basically keep it in stock and maybe you need to add more. Or maybe you're seeing that weddings are doing better than conferences. It was a reality I had to face, that even when I love doing conferences, I just happened to bring more weddings in the way that I was doing business. But that was a good note for me to reevaluate my processes. So just wanted to tie that back in there. But it is through that reviewing of what's working well that you're able to determine, okay, this is going good. How can we now make this better? But then you have the other side of the coin where you have to look at what's not working. So maybe you're dealing with cancellations. Maybe you're dealing with missing payments or lost and broken items. Are there processes in place for your business that protect you from these things? Do you have processes in place that will help you make sure that you get those payments, or that if a cancellation happens, you're still able to recoup any funds? If items are lost and broken, does your team know what to do? Or do you know that the items are even broken? Do you know the status of your business? Are you using online signatures? Are you using receipt of goods and services to confirm that items are going and should be coming back? I know when I was doing rentals, I know there was a time where napkins were going missing for a long time, and finding ways to just make sure that there's some accountability for yourself as a business owner, for your team, as well as your client. So have regular business tune-ups. I encourage quarterly, but do what works for you. If monthly checkups work, if it needs to be semi-annually, but definitely have regular business tune-ups. So that includes finding out, what should I keep doing? What's working so well that I know this is foolproof, this is repeatable, this to keep going, I need to keep doing this. And also figuring out what needs to be changed. If maybe there's an item that's not selling as well, maybe I should go ahead and sell this to a company that maybe is doing better, or maybe it's for a different niche and it doesn't fit my ideal client, so it's not selling as well. Do I have the resources I need? If you're finding that maybe your contracts aren't really protecting you like the way that they should, maybe you need to look into a professional that can potentially help you improve your contract language. Speaking of business protected, is your business protected? Do you have insurance in place? Does your payment policy support the way that you want to not only get paid, but also if something happens or an event is canceled, you are still covered and your client is still happy? And then also asking yourself, what can I do right now? That's the biggest question that a lot of people tend to gloss over, because when you all know in this industry, we are go, go, go. Our minds are go, go, go. Our feet are go, go, go. And sometimes it feels like we can't pause to figure out what we can do right now. But sometimes taking 2 minutes to look at your business, whether you're in your warehouse, whether you're working from home, whether you're just out at a coffee shop trying to send out a quote, taking a moment to reflect on, what can I do right now for my business? So with that in mind, before you take that call from your dream client, do you know your ideal client? Do you know your process? And do you know your business? So, at a show of hands, if your dream client called today, would you be ready to take the call? I see some hands going up. I love it. I love it. And I also don't see some hands going up. So with that in mind, we are here to help each other. So what I would like, in the chat, I'd like you all to share something that you can work on or something you're already doing that would help you lock in your ideal client. A perfect example, one of our users actually shared with us that When they were first starting in Goodshuffle Pro, they just felt like they had so much inventory. They wanted to get their website ready and they wanted to get all their inventory put in at the same time. What they did, they took 15 minutes each day for an entire month. During that 15 minutes, they turned off all notifications. They turned off everything. They sat with some music, they sat at their computer, and they input their inventory. They would watch Goodshuffle tutorials. They would review any resources that they were given, and they would just input their inventory for an entire month for 15 minutes. Anytime they had extra time, they would take 30 minutes, but they always committed to just 15 minutes a day. By the end of that month, not only did they have their website up, they had already sent out about 3 quotes. So those are small changes that you can do that can make a big difference in the long term. Again, small steps close big gaps. So I want you, if you raise your hand, share in the chat what you've already been doing that's helped you nail that ideal client. And if you aren't ready, you're not there in terms of trying to nail that ideal client, what's one thing you think you can change? We've talked a lot today and yesterday about ways that Goodshuffle Pro can assist, but it can even be outside of Goodshuffle Pro. Maybe it's your social media account. Maybe it's updating your photos. What are some ways that you can make those changes? And just drop them in the chat. And if you have any questions about anything that I talked about today, if you have any questions about that birthday party that I did not get paid for, I definitely want to summarize that up. The biggest change I made was contracts. I did not have contracts when I first started doing events. I was just going off of word of mouth. So a change that I made personally was talking to someone on how I can create a contract in order to make sure that I get paid and get paid the agreed upon amount. So that was something that I spent a couple months on, and eventually I got to a point where I could do larger scale events. I see Jacob trying to dedicate more time. Yes, networking. I feel like that's one thing they always say, your network is your net worth. And especially in events, you just never know what knowledge you can get from people. And you never know when you'll need to tap someone for help. So no, I love that you're dedicating more time to networking. Yes, pristine equipment is another one. No, I love that. And yes, we do have our expo event this afternoon, so definitely network with folks then, chat a little bit. That's a great question, Brandy. Are there any other rental companies in the chat that host open houses? I know in my area, when I was doing events, some of them would do them kind of semi-annually to show what rentals they had, or if they had new things coming up, they would host them for planners. But if anyone else has any advice for Brandy, please definitely drop it in the chat. Yes, Jacob, importance of driver interaction with client. You want to enforce that customer service throughout the year. Oh, great advice, Jennifer. So Jennifer's saying they do it every few years and they'll do a planner new product premiere night. Yes, so that's similar to what I used to attend, where they would host kind of here's our new product for the year. I was a big chairs person, as I mentioned. Definitely, I would love to look at all the chairs, but again, very loyal to Ghost Chairs over here. Jacob says twice a year, love it. So yes, for anyone in the chat that's also doing rentals, I love the idea of doing an open house. No, that's really great, especially to build that network and take that good idea of, okay, are these items that people are like? Does my client like that? That ideal client, will they like these new items? So no, definitely love that. We have a couple minutes here, folks. Anyone else want to share anything that they maybe are planning to do, anything they maybe want to suggest to others here that would really help them nail that ideal client? Or any questions for me as well? And the beauty of it is the next session is actually about coulda, shoulda, woulda, from a former Goodshuffle Pro user talking to current Goodshuffle Pro users about things that Goodshuffle Pro can do in order to elevate your business. So we're going to go keep this conversation going. And the other thing I want to suggest, I know we featured a couple folks' websites throughout different sessions. If you actually take a look on our website, you can see all the different websites that are featured. So if you need any inspiration, take a look and don't be afraid to tap someone. I know sometimes it could be intimidating in the idea that this could potentially be competition, but actually the photo that I featured in the beginning of the event that was good business was actually an event that I used to host for event planners. And you just never know what type of advice someone can give. It can sometimes be intimidating, especially if you feel maybe your business isn't there yet, or maybe you feel that someone may not want to give you that advice, but you just never know whom you can connect with. So I also just want to reiterate that with that networking point. Oop, I love that, Brandy. She was asking about other industry organizations like ARA. There are actually quite a few. If anyone else is a part of other ones, definitely connect. I used to be a part of NACE and ILEA as another one that some people are a part of. So there are other organizations similar to ARA that you can join. If there's anyone that has recommendations for Brandy, definitely connect with her. Shelby, I see you this. I used to love style shoots. Last summer, hoping to host once a year. It gave everyone, yes. So style shoots are actually a great way to connect and network. If anyone does not know what a style shoot is essentially where you connect with other, I often use the word frienders is the term I would use, but connect with them. You get to feature your products, feature your services, photographer gets those pictures, and that way you also get those photos to update your website. You get great people to connect with, and there's nothing better than seeing those actually get published as well. So yes, definitely partner with your planner friends. As a former planner, definitely partner with your planner friends. Folks, we are coming up on the next session. It was a pleasure chatting with you all. Definitely reach out if you have any questions. Would love, and again, join that networking session later today and definitely chat more. I'd love seeing you all network right here in this chat. It has been a pleasure, and I look forward to chatting with you all. Yeah, it looks like a lot of folks are interested in industry organizations, so definitely network with each other later today, everyone. No, thank you. It was my pleasure. No, thank you all. Appreciate it. Definitely keep this conversation going into the next session. Everyone take care.